Hi, this is Sarah.
And this is Rachel.
And this is the Rippah Diaries, a podcast where we rip apart, episode by episode, the Vampire Diaries. Warning, this is a rewatch podcast. That means there will be spoilers, because there always are.
Yeah, always. This week we're talking about Season 3, Episode 10, The New Deal. This is our big reset episode after Homecoming last week. Yeah, basically just like a complete shift. Like that plot is kind of done, and now we're starting something else.
Because back in the day of network television, when you do like an episode a week, that was like the big holiday break. I think this one came back in like January or February after you know the Thanksgiving winter holiday season. And so it really is like a reset. They're doing lots of reminding us where we're at, lots of setting up new plots, like you said. And speaking of, our very first scene is kind of setting us up into what this like new storyline is, what is going to be the next big thing for the season. And of course that's going to involve a witch. Witches are always so central to the plot. And the one witch that is in Vampire Diaries is Bonnie. So we see Bonnie is walking through the woods by herself, just kind of random, looking confused, and she comes up on a house in the woods. And of course if you somehow forgot, it is the old witch house where like all the witches were burned. That was like a huge plot in season 2, and they haven't really been there since because the witches are mad at Bonnie for bringing Jeremy back to life.
Me too.
And so we're hearing all of their like voices like whispering all around her, and she goes into the house and she goes down to the basement, and in the basement she sees 4 coffins, and one of them is kind of raised up on a little platform above the others. Clearly that's like a special one. So she goes to it and she opens it up, and inside is Klaus. He's like asleep. He's not desiccated. He's kind of just laying there and like in a suit, you know, looks like proper. And in his hands, he's holding Elena's necklace, or should we say Esther's necklace. Like we learned a couple episodes ago. And so Bonnie starts to like reach for the necklace, but she hears a noise behind her and she turns around, and then suddenly she wakes up in her bed and like it's night and it was all a dream. So Bonnie's witch dreams back.
I love her witch dreams. I love that they brought this back up, because obviously in season 1, like Bonnie's powers start to manifest as like psychic, like that sort of like power, and then she has the dreams with Emily, and all that stuff. And I love that they brought it back, but I wish they'd done it more.
I know. They really lost it. In season 2, it was, like, not very there. And so far in season 3, they haven't used it, like, at all. And, you know, with this idea of another powerful witch coming in, it totally makes sense for Bonnie to be able to sense that and to have these visions and be, like, connecting with that like presence. So it's a really good setup.
It is.
And obviously, again, as rewatchers, we know who that is. We know who's in that coffin. We know why. It's Esther's necklace that is used in that to symbolize who's in that coffin. I feel like even on a first watch, you could maybe kind of catch that, but also like it's so hard because you think she's dead. So it's hard to catch. It's pretty impressive if you caught that.
I think it's also a little confusing because it's like, how many siblings does Klaus have that are in the coffins? Because we know about different siblings, but some have died. And
they don't really do like the actual rundown, I think, until the next episode. I think Damon goes through and he says like, you know, how many are dead from like the old world, the new world. Like he actually does the rundown of who could even be in the coffins. Because at this point they haven't even said there's 4 coffins, and they haven't really said who could even be in them. It's kind of a little like fuzzy. So.
It's weird because it feels like Stefan has looked through them. Because they mention it later that this one doesn't open. But they don't really say.
The only person they know is Elijah, who's obviously in one of them, and then they know. And then Rebecca, who is not in one of them, they have her body. So everything else going on there is a mystery to them. As it is to us on a first watch. Somebody else who's going through mysteries. She's living her own little like scream horror fantasies. First, Elena.
Bonnie's being haunted by witch dreams, and Elena is also being haunted in her own way. She's going for a run. She's jogging through the streets of Mystic Falls. It's finally fall. I love the vibes. It looks so good. The leaves are all like orange and red. It looks so good. There's like the song that's playing is kind of like that nostalgic 2010 sound. It's very good. The fall vibes executed perfectly. But anyway, Elena's running, and then she sort of like, you know, slows down, stops, like checks her watch, probably check her time or whatever. And then she turns around to like go back, I guess. Like she just kind of abrupt stops and turns. And then she sees a man in a hoodie running toward her. And she turns around again and goes back running, like in the direction she was going. And then she looks behind her and she sees the man is gone. Weird.
Yeah.
But then she sees he's kind of following her, and then she turns a corner and speeds up to try to like get away from him.
Yeah, she's running from this man now.
Sprinting. Yeah, faster than she was before. Because he's following her.
Yeah, this is no longer exercise. This is a fight for your life.
Yes, she's in fight or flight mode for sure. He's following her. And she does around this corner, and then she looks back, and he's not there anymore. So she's like, okay, good. Then she turns around to go, I guess, back home, back the way she came. And she bumps right into him.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Yeah.
But he just gives her a little, excuse me, I should have watched where I was going. And they have like a nice little exchange. She's like, don't worry about it. And he just tells her to have a nice day and leaves.
Yep. Fishy.
Yes.
Clearly he was actually following her because he had been behind her the whole time.
And then
suddenly he runs into her.
Yeah.
So even on a first watch, you're like, she's not just paranoid, something's going on there. Yeah. But also I'm like, I fear that I also have this level of paranoia when I see a man when I'm out by myself.
Oh my God. Yeah, same. A man in a hoodie, it's over.
Yeah, it's over. I don't have a quarter of a reason to be as concerned as Elena, but I'm like, if that were me, I'd probably be doing the exact same thing. I'd be booking it.
Yeah, same.
I'm like, I'm surprised she didn't cross the street. I'd be like, that's the classic. Go to the other side of the street.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. That's just maybe.
She was just going to outrun him.
Yeah, I guess so. Which again, if this was a hybrid or a vampire, whatever she thought it might have been, she wasn't going to outrun him at all.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, gotta love a girl for trying.
Yeah.
And speaking of like her saying that she's paranoid, that's kind of like our through line into the next scene at the Mystic Grill, where our girls, Elena and Bonnie, are just talking about how paranoid they are.
Yep.
They're sitting at a table together, and Elena is describing how she feels really paranoid. And Bonnie's like, well, you should be.
Yeah, of course.
Bonnie says, like, Klaus is still out there, and he knows that you tried to kill him. Like, they obviously had this failed assassination attempt in the last episode that Elena was very clearly a part of.
Yeah.
And so that is concerning for all of them. And Elena questions, like, well, then why has there been no sign of him? Like, why is Klaus just gone since that happened? And she feels like him being just missing is driving her more insane than if like he was actually there.
Yeah.
And she said, and then Bonnie says like, oh yeah, insane, like tell me about it. I keep having these nightmares over and over again, the same one repeating. And she describes exactly the scene that we saw in the first scene of the coffins in the basement. And Elena asks if that could be like a witchy dream, like if that actually means something and isn't a normal dream. But Bonnie claims it's just stress. I was like, Bonnie is so me. Repeat stress dreams?
Yeah, of course.
I've been there, girl.
People in coffins. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, usually not people in coffins, but the repeat dreams over and over again.
Yeah.
But anyway, Bonnie's like, yeah, it's normal, whatever. So she changes the topic to Stefan. And Elena is like, he betrayed us, like he is gone out of our lives,
which
who cares?
The switch up
last
episode she was like, I've seen Stefan through his worst. I will never not stand beside him. Like,
yeah, to be fair, the stopping them from killing Klaus was like a betrayal on a level that they could not imagine he was gonna do. And at this point really makes no sense to them.
True.
It won't till the end of the episode. So like that's fair for her, I think, to switch up a little bit, but it is crazy to go like from that to that, and like I don't know how long it's been, a night, a weekend, whatever, how much time has passed. So completely switched up. She's like, he's left, who cares?
He's gone.
We don't like him anymore. So yeah, clearly this like resentment for him is growing. And so then Bonnie asks like, well, how's Damon doing? And Elena says, Damon is Damon. Damon is Damon. Cut to Damon being Damon at the bar.
Yeah, he's also just conveniently at the grill.
Everyone always is.
Yeah, everyone's always there. And we see Damon and Alaric are at the bar. And Damon has a bunch of different bottles of alcohol in front of him and like a carafe of orange juice. Like he's doing his, his brunch drinking, day drinking. And Alaric is just like reading something, not paying attention to him really. And Damon is trying to get him to drink with him, and he like offers him a Bloody Mary or a screwdriver, brunch in a bottle. Obviously pretty early to be drinking, but he's going for it. And Damon says to Alaric, he's like, you have to drink with me. I can't drink this all by myself. I mean, I can, but then someone's getting naked. And then he looks at the bartender who like smirks back at him.
Makes eyes at him. Which also, I'm sure you didn't catch this, but I'm sure some of you know. This bartender was like an old school YouTuber who was like super famous. Justine. I was like, not Justine making eyes at Damon about him getting somebody naked because he's drinking.
I love
Literally
it.
so funny. Like, it takes me so far out of it that it wasn't just like a blonde bartender.
Yeah.
It's freaking Justine. She has like millions of followers. I was like, okay.
They were wild for that.
They were wild for that. But anyway, yeah, Justine smiles at Damon. Yeah. Definitely having overheard that.
Yeah, definitely hearing that. Definitely down. And then Alaric is like, I can't, I'm busy. I'm not just here to hang out with you. I'm here to see Jeremy, who is like an hour late to work because he hasn't showed up yet. And then Alaric shows Damon Jeremy's midterm paper for American History 201.
Which I love that that's the title of the paper. I was like, that's not how you title papers, but okay.
Probably was the title of his paper if it was this bad.
Yeah.
Because we see it has an F on it. And Alaric tells Damon that Jeremy just like copied it right off the internet. He didn't even try to change anything.
Yeah.
Or like hide that he copied it. And then the bartender at this point comes over, Justine, comes over and is like, oh, Jeremy Gilbert, he was fired last week. So they're like, Damon gives a little oops. And like, Alaric kind of like looks at Elena. And so he's like, obviously going to go tell her. And they're going to figure this out with Jeremy.
Yeah, clearly time to pull ranks on Jeremy and like get his shit together. Because cheating on a paper is one thing, but then losing his job and like everything piling up, as it will continue this episode.
I was going to say, we see
theme this episode.
Even worse, he's hanging out with Tyler.
Yeah, speaking of Jeremy, he is out in the woods shooting beer cans using a crossbow with Tyler Lockwood. What a sentence to have to say. Jeremy's out in the woods shooting beer cans with crossbows with Tyler Lockwood.
The boys are boying.
This is a scene that actually happened. Tyler says that, like, Jeremy's like, why are we doing this? And Tyler says that they're doing this because Bonnie dumped Jeremy and he's mad at Caroline, which I was like, didn't Caroline also dump you, Tyler?
I was going to say.
Okay.
Okay,
I guess
sure.
we'll, like, gloss over
also,
that.
you're mad at her?
Yeah, I think it might be
interesting.
Sure. But anyway, so the boys are getting drunk, shooting stuff, the usual smartest characters on the show right here in this scene. And Jeremy jokes that if Alaric finds out that he stole his crossbow, that Alaric's going to use it on him, which I was like, as he should. This is a weapon for killing vampires.
Yeah,
and they're
what?
using it to shoot beer cans in the woods.
Yeah.
But again, showing again how Jeremy is just like, no rules, nothing means anything. It is a lawless land, like just using these weapons for play. He's clearly lost all, like, plot, I guess. And so Jeremy tells Tyler that he thinks Alaric like feels responsible for them, that he feels like he should take care of them. And Jeremy admits that he does like Alaric, you know, because Tyler asks him.
Yeah.
And Jeremy like goes to shoot the crossbow again, but Tyler's standing right next to the target,
basically in front of it.
In front of it. And Jeremy's like, move, like, you know,
I don't want to shoot you.
Like, don't stand right in front of the target. And Tyler's like, I'm a hybrid, Gilbert. You can't kill me unless you cut off my head or rip out my heart. Wonder if that will come back.
Yeah. I wonder if that very, like, over-explaining thing will come back around.
Yeah, I wonder the exact way to kill a very specific type of person will play into the plot. Probably.
We'll see.
But anyway, first of all, how does Tyler also even know that? I was wondering. I was like, did Klaus run some tests to figure out how to
he was, like, attempting
hybrids?
to kill hybrids.
Because
I don't know.
There are other ways to kill vampires, and there are other ways to kill werewolves. If that's the only way to kill a hybrid, how would they even know that at this point?
Yeah.
I guess Klaus has to have figured it out.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
Maybe the failed hybrids. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think some of them just died from, like, their illness.
Yeah.
So also, I don't know. But yeah, I was just like, okay, he doesn't really know that for sure, but okay.
Yeah.
But his point stands that the crossbow alone is not going to kill him. And so Tyler, like, amps up Jeremy, telling him to, like, take a shot, like, try to shoot him with the crossbow because it's not going to do anything anyway. So Jeremy, of course, being a teenage boy, is like, sure, that sounds fun.
Whatever.
So he shoots at Tyler, who, of course, does catch the arrow, stopping it before it, like, pierces him. And I don't know, they act like this is so crazy and impressive, but I was like, any vampire on the show could do the
same thing. I know.
It's that crazy.
I know. I feel like he needed to, like, catch a bullet or something. I don't know. It needed to be something a little crazy.
Yeah. Catch a bullet would be crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, I do agree. They needed to do something a little bit more impressive.
Crazy
it wasn't that crazy.
Because also I feel like Tyler probably could have done that as a werewolf.
Probably.
They were standing really close together and he knew he was about to shoot it. It's not like it was that wild.
Yeah.
to a human, obviously, that's
well, yeah, obviously Jeremy is like,
whoa, that's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
party
as
trick,
a werewolf vampire, I was
yeah.
like, I don't know, I felt like we knew he could do that, but whatever.
Yeah, not that crazy. But also shooting things. Not yet. We see back at the grill, Elena is leaving a message for Jeremy while Damon is playing darts. That's what I was getting at, is shooting things.
Darts,
that wasn't, it was not perfect. I'll give it a 1 out of 10.
I was going to say, the transition being Elena leaving a message to Jeremy. Is somebody shooting Jeremy again?
No, that's a 1 out of 10. We need to do a live episode so we can have people vote on the segues.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. Damon is playing darts at the grill while Elena is calling Jeremy, telling him to call her back the minute he gets her message because she's obviously not happy about this. They need to talk. Pissed. But she doesn't elaborate. She just hangs up, and we see Damon still throwing darts, gets a bullseye. And Damon is just like, you're feisty when you're mad. Of course.
So flirty.
Now that he's mad at Stefan, the flirting is through the roof. He's pulling no punches. But yes, he says that, and Elena's like, I'm not mad. I'm just worried about Jeremy, of course. And Damon is like, don't worry. He just lost his job at the grill. He'll live. Who cares? And Elena is like, he is spiraling ever since Bonnie broke up with him. Like, it's not okay. Yeah. And Damon is like, typical teenager, angsty Jeremy, whatever. Of course, brushing it off. And Elena is like, he's seeing ghosts and has lost every single person he cares about. Obviously, nothing is okay. No. Damon is just like not getting it, but he does hit her with a little like, he hasn't lost everyone. He still has you.
Very sweet.
It is a very nice thing to say. He doesn't really say it in like a very...
He just says it so offhandedly.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I kind of find more touching in that way, that he can acknowledge it so casually.
Yes. I agree.
I don't know. I did like that line.
I did too. I thought that was nice. And he's just like continuing to play darts while he says it. And Elena, kind of asks Damon, like she realizes what's going on. She's like, are you okay? And Damon is like, why would you think I'm not okay? And Elena is like, well, you're day drunk, which is not your most attractive look. Shouldn't have said attractive. Damon, of course, is like, he like turns back from the dartboard and starts walking toward her and is like, then what is my most attractive look? And then he like keeps getting closer. He's like in her face. And she awkwardly is just kind of like, well, I'm not saying you have any attractive looks. I'm just saying this is my least favorite one. The vibes have shifted. Flirty, we say this every episode, but the vibes have shifted.
Keep shifting.
They keep shifting. They really have. And Damon is just like, noted, I'll see if I can make any improvements. And then right as he says that, we hear a don't mind me. And we see Klaus walking up to them. Damon and Elena are obviously surprised. Like Elena's been saying, they have not heard from him since the attempted assassination.
Yeah.
And Damon is just like, you're going to do this at the grill where everyone can see you. Because obviously they think Klaus is going to like kill them.
Yeah, of course. Because as soon as Klaus walks up to, Damon repositions himself so he's standing in front of Elena between her and Klaus, which is, I love it. Love the protector.
So good.
Can you say that word? Love the protector look. So cute.
Yes, I did love that. And Klaus is just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here at my local pub to drink with a mate. And then we see the mate. It's the guy who was following Elena, the guy jogging behind her.
Yeah.
And he comes up behind them, and Klaus refers to him as Tony. Obviously, he's like one of his hybrids.
Yeah.
And Klaus tells him to go get drinks, and he does. And Elena is very clearly shocked. And Klaus is just smiling. He's like, oh
my gosh. The smirk he gives her. It's so intentional.
It is.
It's such like a move of like, I am bringing him around to show you that I am watching you. And the smirk he gives her watching her reaction is so like evil, so devious.
So satisfied.
It's so satisfied. That's a really good way of putting it. Because she clearly is freaking out, realizing, oh my God, I'm not paranoid and crazy. That is really a hybrid that was following me this morning. What a realization.
Yeah.
Completely messes with her head, as he intended.
Yeah, as he intended. Like she said, she was like more nervous about him not being around.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it all made sense.
She was around.
Right. Yeah, he's still around too. He was obviously doing this all on purpose too.
Yeah.
But anyway, Damon says he's surprised Klaus is still there and hasn't like left town. And Klaus says his sister is still missing, so he needs to sort that out before he can leave. And Damon kind of like, says something about Rebecca being like a cute blonde bombshell psycho. So of course they'll find her. And Klaus just says, truth is, I've grown to rather like your little town. Think I might fancy a home here. Oh, I imagine you're wondering, how does this affect you? He's always just like going off on a little tangent. Monologue, yeah. He loves a monologue. And he says, the answer is not in the slightest, as long as I get what I want and everyone behaves themselves.
So as long as you completely obey me, you'll be fine. Yes. Just don't piss me off or I will probably kill you and everyone you've ever met.
Yes, exactly. That is the gist. And he even says, you have my word. So just like do whatever he wants and we'll be good. And Elena is like, what more could you possibly want from us? And Klaus says that he wants Stefan. He wants to know where to find Stefan. And Damon tells Klaus that Stefan skipped town after the whole thing went down. And Klaus is like, that's a shame. And he, you know, very intentionally throws a dart at the bullseye, gets a bullseye. And Klaus continues by saying, like, Stefan stole from him. And he says, I need him found so I can take back what's mine. Mm-hmm. And Elena, again, even though she's literally under constant threat, she's been being followed, she does not care. She
will run up on anyone. We say it like every episode. Elena does not care.
She's like, she will say anything to anyone. She says, that sounds like a Klaus and Stefan problem, which I loved. And Klaus just like starts to move toward Elena.
Yeah, obviously
like,
pissed.
Yeah, obviously not happy about that. And Damon, again, like positions himself to like, not fully between them, but like closer.
Yeah, definitely
kind of
a
cutting him off.
Spot again.
Yeah. And Klaus just smirks and says, well, this is me broadening the scope, sweetheart. Yes, which I also love. Klaus has such a way with words.
He does. He has such a way with actions. He has such a way.
he has such a way. What a way to put it. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that scene. And I love, again, the Damon stepping between Klaus there.
Yes.
And everything leading up. Like when Klaus, like, comes into that conversation as Damon and Elena are having a bit of a moment, it's all very intentional and will kind of like keep coming back around. You know, like Klaus, like you said, does acknowledge that Damon is inserting himself in there as Elena's protector, and he really smirks about that. It's a very immediate smirk, almost like the challenge was more so for Damon than it was for Elena in that moment. Because I think, like, we've talked about this so many times, the thing with Klaus is like he is an observer. He always knows what's going on, and he always wants to know what are people's number one weaknesses, like what are those things that I can hit that will, like, you know, get some sort of reaction. And he's definitely figuring out Damon and Elena in this scene. And we'll come back later, so I'll be bringing this scene up again. But of course we've got to go check back in on Bonnie at the witch house. And so she's walking into the witch house in real life now, not in a dream.
Yes.
And she's looking around, and she goes down into the basement, which is where she always used to do her spells. So, and that's of course where in her dream she saw the coffins, was in the basement. So she goes down there and nothing. There's nothing down there, no coffins, no nothing. When suddenly from behind her she hears, "Hello, Bonnie." That's not really how he said it, but that's how I heard it in my brain of "Hello, Bonnie."
I know. It's in my mind. It's so much more menacing than it really is.
He's giving like weird Dracula-esque vampire in this episode. And of course, we're talking about Stefan, who comes out of the shadows to reveal he's been waiting in the basement there. And Bonnie asks if Stefan followed her, and he says that he did, which I was a little confused because I was like, is he not there before her? But I don't know.
Yeah, I was wondering about that in this scene too. I thought, he was already there and might have been lying to her when I first watched it, but now...
That's what I thought too, but now I'm like, I do think he might have been... Because what he says is he was following her because he needed her help. So it's like, okay, I guess maybe he was following her.
Yeah. I guess, well, obviously... The coffins aren't here yet because she hasn't done anything, or like the witches haven't done anything to hide them.
So I think he maybe is following her.
So I guess he did follow her.
Whatever.
Sure.
So he follows her because he needs her help, and he tells her about Klaus and the family members all daggered in coffins that Stefan has stolen. And he says to her that he has these coffins and he needs Bonnie to help him hide them, like you were saying. And Bonnie is like, I don't want to make Klaus angrier. Like, let's not poke the bear, Stefan.
This won't be good.
But Stefan, of course, says, like, Klaus's one weakness is his family. As long as I have that, I can ruin him. And Bonnie says, like, she doesn't have enough power to hide 4 originals. This is not something she can do. But Stefan says, you're a witch. You hate Klaus. I know you can figure something out. Stefan, she is 17 years old. And she's gone through so much trauma already. Let Bonnie live.
I know. She literally had to, like, let go of Grams twice. Or, well, this was the second time. And then Yeah, she's been through so much.
This is not Bonnie's problem, Stefan.
No.
But he's making it her problem.
Everyone's always making something Bonnie's problem.
They really are. But anyway, so Stefan's, basically telling Bonnie you have to help. And again, Bonnie is getting these dreams. How can she not help?
Yeah. It does feel like she's being called
the ancestors
to help out.
Want her to help,
yes,
for sure.
Definitely.
And so we'll get back to that as she does, of course, end up inevitably helping them.
Yes.
But
meanwhile, Elena's got to run up on someone else, of course.
As usual.
A little different.
Always ready to fight.
Yeah, but we see at the Gilbert house now, Elena and Alaric are making dinner. Elena's setting the table. And Alaric asks Elena if she's ready. And Elena says, vampires, hybrids, originals, no problem. I'll run up on anyone. Not exactly what she says, but basically.
But that's her vibe.
Yeah. And then she's like, but my rebellious brother, Jeremy, I'm worried about. Obviously, Jeremy is kind of her one big weakness,
that's
obviously.
True. Family. Yeah, it's a lot of people's number one weakness.
Yeah. And so she's obviously very worried about the conversation that they're about to have with Jeremy. And Alaric says, that's just proof that she's still human. And then Jeremy comes in and gets something from the fridge, and Elena tells him he's just in time because they're making dinner. They're going to have a regular family dinner. But Jeremy's just no, I'm just passing through. And Alaric is but I thought we'd all stay in, have a nice meal together, like a typical atypical family.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's why?
Yeah, he's so confused. He's we never do this.
Yeah, he's we don't do this. And Elena's because you got fired and didn't tell anyone. Oop. Obviously.
Caught him.
Jeremy's oopsies.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's just can we do this later? I have Tyler outside. We're going to go hang. And Alaric is wait, when did you guys start hanging out? Alaric is remembering when he was pulling them off of each other when they were fighting fighting at the school. Which, I was they definitely have moved past it because we've seen the little scenes with the girls, Sarah and
because Tyler was
Amy.
Amy. Okay, yeah.
Amber was the other one. Yeah, Amber was the other one.
Names. Anyway, they had the whole thing in season 2 where they're hanging out because Jeremy was trying to get info about the werewolves.
Yes, yeah.
But it was always an info thing. I don't know if they've really hung out as just. I mean, nobody in the show really gets to hang out just
That's
for
true.
funsies.
That's true. Which we'll find out. This wasn't really for funsies either.
Yeah.
But anyway. Alaric is very confused, and Jeremy is does it matter when we started hanging out? Who cares? And Elena is obviously yes. He was sired by Klaus. Tyler is dangerous now. And Jeremy is well, he can hear you because he's outside. He has hybrid hearing.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny.
I know.
Shut up. He can literally hear you right now.
He says it so casually, too. He's yeah, so he can hear you. And besides, you of all people, can't lecture me on this. Obviously, which he's kind of right. I'm okay.
Kind of got her on that one.
Yeah, he did kind of get her. And they go back and forth for another minute. And Jeremy eventually makes to leave and just blow them off. But Elena blocks his way and it's you're not going anywhere, especially not with Tyler. And Jeremy kind of looks to Alaric for help, to team up against Elena. But Alaric's sorry, I'm with Elena on this one.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's just all right, you know what? Fine. You want me to stay in? We'll all stay in. And then he's yo, Tyler, come on in.
Oh, God.
He's wild for this.
He's so wild for this. Such a typical angry teenage boy.
Oh, yeah. And Elena is, Jeremy, obviously mad at him.
What's wrong with you?
But before anyone can actually have done anything about it, it's already too late.
It's done. As soon as you said it,
it's
done.
Yeah. Tyler just opens the door and comes right on in.
Yeah.
So.
He looks kind of sheepish, too. I felt a little bad for Tyler
this is awkward.
Because, yes, Tyler's sired. Yes, Elena and Alaric are right. He should not be hanging out with Tyler. He
shouldn't be invited in.
No, he has less control over himself than Damon at this point, which is saying something.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yes. So, they're so right about this. But also, at the end of the day, that is not Tyler's fault that he is sired. He is really not aware of what he's doing. And, which, again, is point to why he shouldn't be hanging out with him. Yeah. But it's also, these are Tyler's friends. People he's known his whole life.
I know.
And then having to hear people talk about you like this, especially after the fight with Caroline, I'm I do feel bad for Tyler. As much as I have problems with what's going on right now, it's it's also not his fault, and we like him for a lot of reasons.
I know.
So, yeah, he just kind of sheepishly walks in
he's hi.
Also, if you've ever been with a family and they're all fighting and you're
oh my God, it's awkward. Yeah, you're
That's
like,
the worst.
hello. I'm surprised he even came in. Obviously, he
I wouldn't have. I would have just bolted down the block.
I know.
Texted Jeremy, I'll meet you at the spot.
Yeah, I know. I think obviously he had to. He was being put up to something, but
yes, that's true.
Oh my
he had
God.
No choice. Yeah.
Not great.
Not great. Speaking of other awkward social interactions, at the Salvatore house, Damon is pouring himself a drink, and he turns around and sees in the doorway Klaus is standing there. And Klaus says, I think it's about time we had a drink, don't you? And Damon says that they're overdue, and they like banter a while about plotting and scheming and planning epic failures and very normal Klaus-Damon dialogue.
Yep.
And Klaus says, don't be so hard on yourself. Who could have guessed your own brother would betray you? And Damon hits him right back with well, I did have a front row seat to when your sister lied to you. So both of these in the very same spot, Klaus and Damon. They're very, like, similar right now.
Yes.
And Klaus says, like, well, Rebecca's just a fickle one, so that's just Rebecca.
I mean, he's kind of right.
He's kind of right. And so he asks if Damon knows where Rebecca is. You know, he gave him the opening right there. But Damon kind of just brushes it off, doesn't really answer. And Damon says, like, younger siblings, you just never know what they're going to do. And then Damon offers Klaus a drink. So they're going to stay and have a drink together. Interesting.
Yeah.
Such a weird pairing. I don't know if I really like them together. They're both, like, my favorites separately. But then together, I'm like, I don't know. They have such a weird energy together.
They do have a weird energy. Yeah.
Anyone could be beheaded at any point.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. Would hate to see one of them have to be the one beheaded.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't love.
It's
and it would
too
have
much.
to be Damon.
It would. Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. And I would hate that for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Uneasy pairing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely uneasy. It's a good way to put it. Mm-hmm. Also, still uneasy. We'll go back to the Jeremy
Definitely
Tyler.
uneasy now.
Yeah, very uneasy. So awkward. Back to Jeremy, Alaric, Tyler, Elena, all of them. Jeremy is like getting Tyler a glass of water. And Elena, again, not afraid to run up on anyone. She's a real one. She's like, this is weird. But she continues. She says, Klaus has hybrid stalking her, and now he's just here, like, in their kitchen. So obviously it seems like...
It's an accusatory statement.
Exactly, yeah. And Tyler is like, maybe I should go. It's a little weird now that she said that. But Jeremy's like, no, you can stay. And Elena's like, unless, you have to go check in with your hybrid master. Again, pulling no punches.
Yeah.
But Tyler laughs it off, and he's just like, it's not like that, you silly girl. You don't get it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And Alaric is like, okay, then what is it like? Like, what is the difference between being sired and compelled?
I liked this
us.
from...
I know.
He's so studious.
I know.
It's like he really wants to learn.
Yeah, that's so true. I was thinking I like it because it does kind of clarify...
Yeah.
Us rewatchers, we know, like, what the sire bond is like.
Yeah.
But at this point, you don't really. Like, you just kind of know.
As a character or as a viewer. Like, they don't really understand.
Yeah, exactly. So, I like this little, like, info dump. And then, Alaric asking, I feel like, makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So Alaric asks him, and Tyler answers, like, compulsion is just mind control. Just like, hypnosis, you just do it, you don't think about it. But being sired is, like, faith. Literally says faith. You do something because you believe it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Which everyone is like, I mean, like, not as much because he says some even more.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he says even more crazy things, but everyone is like,
yeah, you sound like you're in a cult, bro.
Yeah.
Which they basically say later.
Exactly. Yeah. Elena is like, so you really believe that serving Klaus is the right thing? And Tyler is like, I don't serve Klaus. He released me from a curse, so I owe him. And Alaric is like, he's in true dad mode in this.
I was going to say, this is the most dad question to ask right here.
Yeah. He's like, so what if he told you to jump off a bridge? And Tyler is like, no, he wouldn't do that. And even if he did, I'd be fine. I'm a hybrid, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, missing the metaphor completely there.
Not getting it. But Elena, like, makes it a little bit more clear for him. She's like, what if he asked you to rip your own heart out? And Tyler's like, he wouldn't. And things are, like, getting more tense.
Yeah,
like,
clearly, like, Tyler's getting, like, agitated by these questions.
And
like,
defensive.
having to justify himself. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And Elena really presses him and is like, okay, but, like, what if he did? She's pressing him. And Tyler just, like, kind of yells, I don't know, then I'd rip my own heart out.
Yeah.
And at this point is when everyone is really, like, Elena,
frozen.
Jeremy, Alaric, they're all, like, whoa, that's wild.
Even Jeremy at that point.
Yeah,
like,
even
I can't
Jeremy,
pretend to stand by that anymore.
Yeah, the Jeremy one I really noticed because Jeremy's like, oh wow, he's crazy.
Yeah, like, well, wait a second, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah. And then Tyler's just
Tyler looks a little like surprised that he said that.
Yeah,
I feel too. I was just gonna say, like,
that's true. It's like you don't know how deep it goes until you're like actually
you're really forced with
to
that
face
reality.
it. Yeah. And Tyler just kind of is like, no one gets me, basically. And Elena's like, you're right, I don't understand, because Tyler was saying like no one understands, and she says she doesn't understand. Klaus has terrorized all of them, and now Tyler's just being blindly loyal to him. It makes no sense. But Tyler just shuts it down and is like, you're overthinking it. I can still make my own decisions, like whatever. And then yeah, ... That's where they leave it for now.
Yeah.
So,
man, also I laughed so hard at this scene too, and after he says the ripping my heart out, he's like, you guys sound like Caroline. He's like, maybe because everyone is right, including Caroline.
I know. He's being so like, again, yeah, just like very cult logic. He's just like so not getting it.
Again, this is where I feel like it's hard to not like Tyler for me as a rewatcher, because really understanding the depth of what's happening is like a lot harder to be mad at him for, because it's not his fault.
No.
But yeah, the ... on the I can still make my own decisions. I still have free will.
We'll see in this episode and
so much in the next one.
Yeah. Not really true, but
also an interesting detail in this scene, I noticed Alaric had a glass of wine with dinner. I was like, we're really leaning into the alcoholic plot. Not that you can't have a glass of wine with dinner, but Alaric shouldn't, with how much day drinking and every other drinking he's doing.
He really shouldn't be.
I just thought that was a funny touch to add in, that it's like, he has to have alcohol with quite literally every meal.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, he was probably also drinking at the grill.
Yeah.
I do think this episode, it's not much happens. Like, they're just doing, a little bit of a reset, like we said. But I do think Alaric, they've really added a lot of like subtle detail too.
Oh, totally.
That I have more to say about it later.
But, interesting.
Yeah,
I appreciate
we'll get to
a lot of Alaric and generally, but
I think it feels like they were like super thoughtful with where Alaric's at and where he's going.
I think so too.
We'll get there. Anyway.
Speaking
of drinking.
Yeah, speaking of drinks. At the Salvatore house, Damon pours Klaus and himself a drink, and he hands one over to Klaus, who takes his glass and he says, cheers, mate. And they both take a drink. And Klaus laments, we've actually got a lot in common, you and I. Like I was saying in the last scene, they really do generally have a lot in common. And I feel like this comes up a lot, especially in like the next season. There's definitely some comparisons to be drawn. And Damon is like, oh, yeah, because of our mutual loathing of my brother. The only similarity he wants to attribute right now. And Damon says, why are you so mad at him anyway? You said he stole something? And Klaus explains that Stefan stole his family, the originals. And Klaus says that he had them all daggered, boxed up, awaiting the day when he saw fit to just wake them up. And then Stefan went and pinched the bloody lot. I
love him.
Pinched the bloody lot is just like really a hilarious way to describe the situation.
I know. It's so good.
Yeah, it's brilliant writing, brilliant dialogue from the team here. But yeah, Damon says like, of course he did. Such a buzzkill, my baby bro. It's like the Olympics with these two having to talk to each other. They both have crazy dialogue all the time. They do. It's just so funny and like interesting ways of saying things. So it's I love the back and forth
when these two are having to interact.
Yeah. So yeah, Damon's such a buzzkill and he's looking out the window. And Damon says, like, I'd love to find Stefan, but I don't work for you, Klaus. Which, of course, Klaus does not like that.
No.
And he acknowledges that he can't compel Damon. Obviously, his drink, like, reeks of vervain. And he won't be killing Damon because Damon's probably his best chance at getting back what he wants here. So Klaus says he thinks a demonstration is in order. He will make himself clear about finding Stefan and that they respond best to displays of violence. So he pulls out his phone saying, why don't you take this as an example of my reach? And he calls someone and he starts getting all animated on the phone. He's like, there he is. So that thing I told you to do, why don't you go ahead and get on with it? And we end the scene and pick up the next one at the Gilbert house as Jeremy is hanging up the phone, which you're immediately like, whoa, wait a second. I assumed Klaus was on the phone with Tyler. And then cutting away from Jeremy getting off the phone, you're like, say psych right now. Jeremy's on the phone with anybody else.
Yeah, no. On like a first watch, I feel like you're like, no, wait. They're different phone calls.
Yeah,
these are not related.
It's just a continuity cut. It had nothing to do.
It's just to make it flow. But we see Jeremy, hangs up the phone, and Elena's like, what was that about? And Jeremy's like, nothing. Obvious, compelled, like,
immediately.
So, us rewatchers were like, of course. And Tyler's like, I gotta go, bye. He just leaves.
Yeah.
And after he goes, Alaric is like, that was illuminating. And Elena is like, yeah. And now we realize, like, he's a lunatic and he's been invited in. And Alaric is just like, this whole thing is wild. He's basically in a cult now, like, saying what we were saying.
Yeah.
He's using, like, cult logic.
Yeah, he doesn't even realize, like, all of the lies that are, like, behind the logic of what he's saying.
Yeah.
Like, literally cult logic.
Yeah. And Elena tries to tell Jeremy that Tyler is not a good influence, but she turns around to look at Jeremy, and Jeremy is no longer in the kitchen. And then she and Alaric look at Jeremy's plate, and they see his ring, and Alaric is like, that's his daylight ring. And
His
Elena,
daylight ring, his Gilbert ring.
His Gilbert ring. His Gilbert ring, not his daylight ring.
Jeremy's a vampire.
Jeremy never gets one. Very select few that don't get one. Yes, his Gilbert ring. Anyway, Gilbert ring on the plate. And they like are like, immediately where did he go?
Yeah, that's suspicious. Without his ring, saves his life.
Yeah, throws it off. Obviously, already a red flag that he took it off in the first place. And they go outside to look for Jeremy, and they see Jeremy just standing in the middle of the street, like not moving at all, just staring straight ahead. And then they see a car whipping around a corner, like flying straight at Jeremy, like going to hit him in seconds. And Elena and Alaric, they're on the porch at first, and then they run toward him. Elena is like screaming to Jeremy, like trying to get him to move. And Alaric and Elena are both running, and Elena kind of stops before getting to the road, but Alaric just keeps running, shoves Jeremy out of the way, but then Alaric gets hit by the car, and we see Elena runs over to Alaric. He like tumbles, he rolls down the road,
crunches.
Yeah,
they're like dead immediately. There's not a chance he's not dead.
Yes. And Elena runs over to Alaric and like turns him over and looks at him, and then the car pulls up next to her, and it's Tony, the hybrid, driving the car. And he's like, there I go again, bumping into people.
Oh, LOL. He's so funny.
I know. I'm like, it's not really that funny, but I did laugh.
Yeah.
It's like, just how silly it is.
Yeah, it's funny for how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, bro.
I know. I'm like, okay.
You're not on Damon or Klaus's level.
Yeah, it was like, good try, but you're not quite there, Tony. And then he just kind of drives away, and Elena checks Alaric's hand to make sure that he was wearing his Gilbert ring, and he was. So Jeremy, like, at this point gets up. He was thrown into the side of the road, and he gets up and comes over to them both. And Elena tells him Alaric will be okay because of the Gilbert ring. And she asks Jeremy if he's okay. And Jeremy is just like...
He's confused.
Yeah, he's like, I don't understand. Like, what is going on? And Elena asks him who was on the phone call earlier. And Jeremy kind of pauses for a beat, like, thinking. He's like, it was Klaus. Like,
yeah. Like, I just forgot.
I don't know. I just feel like it's compulsion doesn't really, I guess he compelled him to not remember. I don't know. He seems so like confused, which is not usually.
Well, I don't think you necessarily remember when somebody compels you. So I guess he kind of just like dissociated from it for a second.
Yeah.
But
I guess, you'd have to go stand out and
get
yourself
road.
Almost hit by a car.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elena is like, clearly you were compelled, Jeremy. Like, and then she kind of, she's like, we got to get Alaric's body inside.
Yeah.
Like, help me out. We'll carry him
before some neighbors see him dead in the road.
Before a neighbor, how they didn't see this. The car was flying down Little Mystic Falls, probably speed limit 30.
I know. I was thinking about this about so many scenes. It'll keep coming up. But yeah, how every time Alaric dies, somebody doesn't find out.
I know.
He always dies in public places.
I know.
But anyway, so they're going to get Alaric's body inside. They'll take care of that situation as it continues to evolve. But we've got to check back in on the boys having a drink. Oh, no, they're done having a drink. Klaus is back home now at his new home at the Michelson house. And he is walking through with his hybrid Mindy, who we've seen before. Mm-hmm. And they're in this huge mansion that is like completely under construction inside. There's all these workers everywhere. Like the whole thing is being redone in the interior. And Klaus is saying to her, compel the men to open up this wall. We need sun. I want a fortress, not a dungeon. I was laughing so hard because I was like, first of all, I just love that they have to compel the men. Is he not paying them?
No.
There's no way. Can you open up this wall? Like, they have to be compelled. Otherwise, they won't do the job.
I like to believe they have to be compelled because it's like a structural, like it needs to be there. to support the house. So they're like, we won't do it. He's like,
just do it anyway. Who cares? But also, I want a fortress, not a dungeon. I was like, this is why Caroline and Klaus are my number one ship. Imagine these two doing home reno together.
Oh my God.
That's my dream episode.
Yes. Love.
So funny. But anyway, I'm just laughed that this is like a B plot for Klaus right now that he's doing home reconstruction. But then the real plot here, Tyler shows up. And Klaus calls him the man of the hour, the man of the house. And Tyler asks, like, if everything went okay. And Klaus says, well, Tony ran down Alaric instead of Jeremy, but apples, oranges, message lands the same, whatever.
I love him.
He's so funny for that. Being like, I don't care who I killed as long as I killed somebody.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so you might have to bleep it out, but he's so... he's so...
I don't know if you can say that, but it is
you can
really
bleep it out. I'm sure you all can infer. He's being so... extra in a good way. He has such a flair.
Yeah, he's Brat Summer. That's just like his vibe. He's so funny for this. And so like Tyler is like, first of all, you said you were sending them a warning. Just a warning, Klaus. And Klaus is like, I did. It was an effective warning.
Yeah.
And Klaus is like, or Tyler is just obviously like so upset now. He did not realize like what he was getting involved in here. He did not think they were going to be like hurting people.
Yeah.
And Klaus says, Elena's family suffers. She's motivated to give me what I want. Obviously, Tyler put two and two together here.
Yeah.
And clueless Tyler, again, he's like, I didn't think we were actually going to kill anybody. I feel like even Klaus is like, Tyler.
Yeah, I know. He's like,
come on.
He's like, he did get me this. He is the man of the hour, but we're not working with much.
We're not working with much here. He's like, Tyler, you're still dealing with your guilty conscience, but you need to get over it. And he tells him human life is just a means to an end, to my end.
Yeah.
And you should remember that.
Yeah.
And so, as usual, Klaus's motto is just always like, get over it. It's okay. This whole like little thing reminded me of when there's the scene later on where Caroline's mad at him. He's like, we had a tiff. I'm over it. It reminded me of that, where it's just like Klaus's whole motto is always, you're mad at me. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Who cares? Move on.
Move on. Yeah.
So that's where they'll end this scene of Tyler just being like, what am I like involved with now? What is going on?
Yeah. And again, though, he has no choice. Like, he's just still along for the ride, even if he's like, you know, not really for it.
No, he has no choice. But now he's kind of starting to realize, like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is, like, more serious than I thought.
Yeah, he at least realizes that even though he has no choice, like, he's definitely on a dangerous path.
Oh, totally.
Anyway, we see Alaric lying on the sofa at the Gilbert house.
Dead.
Still dead. Still out, obviously. Got hit by a car. And as they said, was it last episode or a couple episodes ago? It's slowing down the time for him to wake up. But Damon comes in and he asks Elena how Alaric is, and Elena tells him that Alaric is still dead.
Well, yeah,
but he had the ring.
Goes, how is he? And Elena's like, he's dead. Shay and I burst out laughing. We were like, way to tell him, Elena.
I know. It's like, at this point, he has died like so many times.
Yeah, you kind of wait. When you hear Alaric's dead, you kind of wait to be like, he's actually dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just kind of like, okay.
He's dead. Yeah. Okay, we'll see him in 12 hours.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. I'll miss this day with him, but it's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elena explains, that Klaus's hybrid hit him, and then they just have to wait for the Gilbert ring to bring him back.
Yeah.
And Damon gets down to business and is like, Jeremy, why aren't you wearing vervain? Where's your bracelet that they gave him in season 1, I think it was.
Yeah.
And Jeremy just is like, I don't know. Again, he
just looks so confused.
He's so mystified.
Yeah. And I love Damon just being parental and being like, Jeremy, come on. Where's the bracelet?
Yes, he's very on top of it. Like, definitely older brother vibes, like we mentioned before.
Yeah.
And Elena's like, it was Tyler, obviously. Like, that's why he was hanging out with you, to get you off the vervain. Which is a little cold. Like, he could have been.
I know. Friend. I was like, if I were Jeremy, I would be so offended that everyone is like, oh, now it makes sense why Tyler was hanging out with you. Now it makes sense why anyone actually wanted to spend any time with you, Jeremy. To just like get you off vervain so you could die.
I know. I'm like, that is so cold of her.
Yeah.
That was really wild.
She's right, unfortunately.
She is unfortunately right, but it was still cold. And Damon just tells them that Klaus is sending them a message, and he explains the whole coffin situation. Stefan stole all the coffins, but they just need to find the coffins now, and then no one else has to die. And Jeremy is like, what? That is your plan? Like, just steal back the coffins? And Damon asks Jeremy if he has a better idea. And Jeremy is like, yeah, let's leave. Get the hell out of here. Pack our bags. Go. And Elena tells Jeremy to calm down. And Jeremy's just like, no, this happens every single time. Like, no matter what we do, you can get on my case about, like, school, work, whatever, like, all you want. But in the end, none of us are going to make it out of this town alive because this keeps happening. Which she's kind of right, kind of justified. Mm-hmm. And he just sort of storms off. And Elena is like, if Klaus wants his family back, like, Damon is like, and then she kind of like, ... Damon cuts her off. He's like, I know what you're thinking. And the answer is no.
Yeah. I love that he immediately knows.
I love how...
brain cell, those two.
I know. I love how on the same page they are right now. And Elena says, if we just give him Rebecca, but Damon cuts her off again and is like, then Klaus will undagger her and she will come for you first thing when she wakes up. And Elena's like, wait, how many coffins did you say there were?
Like, she always connects the dots.
She does. Yeah, it finally clicked for her. And we see, Damon doesn't really answer, but we
know the answer's 4.
Yes, exactly. And we see Bonnie getting a phone call, and it's in her house. And Elena tells her Klaus is looking for 4 coffins, just like in her dream. And Bonnie is just like, Elena, don't get involved. Like, don't do this.
Stay away from this.
Yeah, stay away from this. Don't deal with this. But Elena is like, well, I'm already involved. Like, Klaus tried to kill Jeremy. Yeah, he won't let me not be involved. And Bonnie's, of course, being Bonnie, stepping up. She's like, what can I do? How can I help? And Elena tells Bonnie that they need to find Stefan, so maybe a locator spell. Bonnie's like, actually, we don't need the locator spell. We're
not
good.
Needed.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, cut straight to where we, of course, know Stefan is at the old witch house. And we see Damon and Elena are walking towards the house. Damon is claiming about how he hates witches because they're so fickle and passive-aggressive. I was like, yeah, right, you love witches.
I was going to say.
You just don't get them at all.
No, exactly.
Where Stefan really does for some reason, which is kind of like a funny thing. Stefan has like a reserved like appreciation that he keeps his distance of witches, whereas Damon's like, I love those bitches. Like,
yes.
Those are my witches. But it's also like no respect.
Yeah.
So it creates an interesting dynamic in both situations.
Yes.
Which of course is completely at play in this scene. They go into the house, they start calling for Stefan, and Damon's calling out, Ollie, Ollie, Oxenfree, Stefan, come on out, you're safe. But then, of course, the sunlight in the witch house burns Damon because, as we've seen previously, the witches like to mess with his daylight rings. Burn alive in the house. So he's like rushing to the shadows and explains to Elena what's going on. She's like, okay, go wait outside then because I'm not stopping until I know that Stefan is here. Mm-hmm. And so she like doesn't care, relentless as usual. She's like starting to go into the house and Damon like has to run outside. He's all frustrated. And then we see in the basement, Elena is calling out for Stefan when he literally like rolls out of the darkness. I don't know if you noticed the way he like rolls around the wall. I was like, that was the most vampire Dracula entrance he could have possibly done.
He was hamming it up.
Yeah, not only the coming out of the shadows, but the rolling around the wall like, hello, Elena.
I love him.
I don't know why that's his vibe this episode, but I love it. So anyway, so also, why is he just hanging out in the basement?
I know.
Producer Shay said he's like an NPC who's just waiting to get activated by somebody coming into the basement. I was like, that's so true.
He's walking into walls, just like bouncing back and forth.
Like he's just like resting. And then somebody walks in. Hello. Let me tell you about the treasure.
Yeah, you click to either engage and have a conversation or you just move on.
That's what he's doing. Like he doesn't have anything better to do. He's just, we'll keep talking about this because this is the only place he is this whole episode.
Yeah, I guess he's hiding out, but.
But still, it's just crazy. There could be something else he could do here, but I guess not.
Yeah.
So Elena tells Stefan that Bonnie was the one that like said he would be there, and Stefan's like, well, Bonnie sucks at keeping secrets, which is so funny of him.
I know.
To, like,
that really got me. I was laughing. I was like,
I know.
Oh, Stefan.
It's so funny. And it's just like, of course Bonnie was going to tell Elena. Like, I
these
keep
two
a secret,
girls,
but not from Rachel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these two girls, one of them finds out something. The other one will know it.
Yeah. Which, of course, they're good at keeping secrets. Nobody else knows about the vampire, werewolf, witch, everything of it all.
Yeah, that's true. But
when you keep that many secrets, sometimes you got to tell your bestie.
Of course.
Yeah, besties are never included in the keeping secrets from category. So.
Yeah. The way I'd be on the phone, I'd be like, so Stefan's lost it.
Guess where I just found Stefan.
Yeah, he's being weird.
Yeah. You wouldn't even have to ask. I'd just be like, so, I heard something today. It is a secret, but... So funny of Stefan to be like, Bonnie sucks at keeping secrets.
Yes.
So Elena tells him that he has to give Klaus his family back. That Klaus compelled Jeremy to stand in front of a car and almost die. Yeah. And that Klaus isn't going to stop until he gets those coffins back. And Stefan says, Elena, stop talking. Stefan's, again, lost it. He's over it. And so he's like, I am not giving Klaus anything. Yeah. And Elena is outraged, saying, Klaus is literally going to kill Jeremy if you don't. Yeah. And Stefan's like, that's not my problem. Which obviously Elena does not like. So she slaps him across the face. Yeah. Which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, I forgot that she does that. I forgot Elena always is going for a slap.
She loves to slap people.
She does. That really surprised me. I was like, wow, it kind of came out of nowhere.
It does kind of.
Not for Elena, but
I know she's had this bubbling up anger at Stefan for a really long time, and to have this like point blank acknowledgement of like, I don't even care if Jeremy dies. Yeah, is I think just like the last straw for her of being like, yeah, it's just another betrayal. Go to hell. She's like, yeah, I'm so over you. Yeah, it's another betrayal. Yeah, but I thought this scene was really interesting because while it represents that for Elena, like. To me, I felt like I really noticed Stefan's emotions like flickering across his face during this scene. Like, I know his emotions aren't supposed to be on still, but also we've talked about it at length in the Humanity Switch episode, in Homecoming, in like so many episodes we've talked about Stefan's emotions. And we've made a case for maybe Homecoming they do turn back on. And to me, it did kind of feel like maybe they were on and he's pretending they're not on. But also maybe they're trying to turn on and he's fighting them or denying them. I couldn't tell. Yeah. But Paul just had so many emotions running across his face when Elena was saying all of this that, like, even though he's verbally saying he doesn't care that Jeremy dies, I was like, I don't think he really feels that way. Which makes me think they're on. Yeah,
I think so, too. Because I also think, again, I'm pretty sure we said this exact same thing in the Humanity Switch episode. But sort of like when Elena's emotions came back on and she was so fixated on how much she like hated Catherine and wanted to kill her. I feel like this is a very similar thing for Stefan with Klaus, where he does like, he's basically only letting in his like rage, anger, like,
that's true, the bad emotions.
Yeah, exactly. And like he's fixating on Klaus and being upset with him. So he does care for Jeremy deep down, but again, I feel like it's just like getting pushed overridden. Out. Yeah, exactly.
I do think that's what's happening here. Yeah. Of course, Helena isn't looking at the nuance of any of that. She does not really care.
Yeah, of course.
So she storms out of there. She's, again, done with Stefan. She's pissed. And Damon is just standing waiting outside, obviously has heard all of this. And he just gives her his car keys saying, like, she should just leave. He will stay there and deal with his brother. She needs to go deal with her brother, which really like. The Damon and Elena vibes obviously are so great this episode for multiple reasons that we will get to. But I think like a little moment like that you kind of forget is almost like one of the best, where you're like, yes, just that acknowledgement of what you need and doing things for each other like that is so like, that's what a real relationship and partnership is about. Yeah. And I really value that for them. Yeah. So I liked that. So he gives her his car keys and she leaves to go see what the heck is going on with Jeremy. And Damon rushes into the house. He like kind of like has to work it up, and then he has to run into a shadowy spot, run to another shadowy spot. He's bouncing around the house, corner to corner along the way, and he finally reaches down to the basement where Stefan's just like sitting on a chair, just like hanging out again. NPC waiting to get activated, and Stefan's like, that was impressive. But he tells Damon like, the coffins aren't even here, so it really wasn't worth it. And so he's telling Damon to go away, and Damon's like, I don't care about the coffins. We need to talk. This is about us right now. And Damon attacks Stefan and immediately starts like dragging him up the stairs. Like they're fighting all the way through the house. And eventually Damon gets him outside of the house and he kicks Stefan in the stomach and he breaks like a branch off of a tree and stabs it into Stefan's stomach. How Damon always gets the upper hand on Stefan this quickly shocks me. Always. Also to me, this is a bit telling that maybe Stefan isn't back on the human blood diet. Maybe he's already off of it. Because how is Damon able to get him, like, over him that quickly if he's full, like, Rippah Stefan?
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that. I feel like it could be. He's, like, trying to not be so indulgent. Like, maybe he is weaning back off.
I think he's probably trying to wean off a little bit. Otherwise, he should be able to take Damon down. Damon's getting burnt in there. You're telling me he could have taken Damon out? Yeah,
he doesn't so true.
Really fight back against him. He just gets outside, gets, like, staked in the stomach, and, like, you know, he just plays along, basically. But anyway, Damon says that he staked him for screwing up his plan, obviously in the last episode about Klaus. And he asks why Stefan even did it in the first place, because it just literally does not make sense. Mm-hmm. And Stefan says, piece by piece, Klaus took everything from me. I'm doing the same to him. But Damon is like, we were literally going to kill Klaus.
Yeah.
So that does not make sense again. And Stefan, like, they're going back and forth. And Stefan finally admits that he did all of this to save Damon. And Damon's like, what? No.
Yeah, no way.
No way. You did not do this for me. It's kind of like Elena has this realization earlier when she hears this too. Or earlier, sorry.
Later, yeah.
It's just like a world shifting thing to be told of like that Stefan did this because he cared about his brother.
Yeah.
It's totally a shift in how we're understanding Stefan's character at this time. And Stefan explains that Klaus was a step ahead of them and that if Klaus died, the hybrids were going to kill Damon. And Damon's like, when are you going to get it through your head? Stop saving me. And then he stakes Stefan again and he just like walks away and leaves, like obviously all pissed about this.
Yeah.
These two are just in such like distraught vibes right now.
Yeah.
You should be happy. You should be like, you saved me, brother.
Yeah,
Instead he's like,
you
suck. Stop saving my life.
How dare you?
I'm
You should have let me die. Yeah.
Probably what Damon would have rather just died and let Klaus die.
Yeah, probably.
Everyone in the show has a martyr complex,
so true. Yes, so
everyone
true.
would choose that.
Yeah. Jeremy also asking to die, basically. Yeah. We see Tyler like sitting out in the woods where they were shooting beer cans earlier, and Jeremy shows up behind him, like aiming a crossbow at Tyler, and without even looking back, obviously, like, he has a hybrid hearing. Tyler is just like, don't do it, Jeremy. And Jeremy is like, why not? Why shouldn't I? You stabbed me in the back. I should get to do it to you. And Tyler's like, I didn't stab you in the back. And Jeremy asks him if he was only hanging out with him to get him off the vervain. Aww. And Tyler just said, like, not a real answer, but we all know the answer. He just says, Klaus asked me to. I never thought he would try to kill you. Yikes. What a blow. Not only did he help Klaus, like, do this, he basically is saying, yes, that was the only reason I was hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Poor Jeremy. They were right to send him away. Spoiler for the end of the ep.
Yeah.
But Jeremy is just like, okay, sure, but it's Klaus. What did you think was going to happen? And Tyler sort of defends him and defends Klaus and says Klaus doesn't care about you. He just wants his family back, of course. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy like shoots at Tyler at this point, but Tyler catches it again, like we saw earlier. And Tyler's like, what the hell? And Jeremy tells Tyler that when Klaus wants something, someone ends up dead. So think about that the next time you blindly just do whatever he says. And Jeremy just makes to leave. And Tyler calls after him as Jeremy's walking away. And he says, go home, stay inside. Klaus is not going to stop until he gets all of those coffins back. And he is not done with you. Yeah. So Jeremy, I think a little rattled. Like, he does stop to listen to what Tyler's saying as he's leaving.
Yeah. I think this is like such a reality check for Tyler and for Jeremy. This whole situation, definitely. But this scene is where you feel it sinking in, really. Yeah. About like, the wrong that Tyler has done and like how misguided and misjudging Jeremy feels he's been. That it's like the one good thing he had is one like friend and he thought he was having a good day, and also that's now ruined. It's really tracking with a lot of his attitude this episode, and we'll continue to as we get into that plot more. Yeah. But we have to go find Alaric alive again back at the Gilbert house.
Thank God.
It's now nighttime. It's dark out. Alaric is finally coming back to life on the couch, and Elena is just entering the house, and, he says he's only been alive for like 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And Alaric is immediately asking about Jeremy and where he is and how he's doing. And Elena says, well, he hates me, he hates life, and he hates the fact that we can't have family dinner without somebody dying.
Fair.
All fair things right now, unfortunately. And Alaric is not looking too good while she's saying this. And she does immediately ask, like, are you okay? But he can't even answer because he immediately starts violently coughing up blood into his hands. Clearly not okay. And so Alaric collapses on the floor, and Elena is, like, trying to help him. We cut forward in time to Elena has, like, presumably called the ambulance as they're, like, arriving, and paramedics are coming into the house to help Alaric. They're checking his pulse. They're saying that it looks like he has internal bleeding, and they're trying to, like, help him, saying that they need to get him to a hospital immediately. And so they're trying to, like, get him up when, at the door, Tony the hybrid appears. Uh-oh, not good.
Not good.
He immediately compels the paramedics, saying, why don't you two meet us at the hospital? And so they get up, they leave. Alaric is just left on the floor, bleeding out, whatever. Yes. Elena is freaking out. She's trying to stop them. This girl understands compulsion, and yet she still is always just like, fight it.
Wait.
To everyone.
Yeah.
You can fight it.
Yeah, you random EMTs that have no stake in this. Just fight it.
You don't understand anything about what any of this is. Fight it. You're stronger than this. But anyway, she's like trying to, really more that it's like a last ditch effort. Alaric is dying actively on the floor right now. Yeah,
what can she do?
And also not from supernatural means. If he dies right now, he's probably dead.
Yeah.
And so she's freaking out trying to stop them. And Tony's like, just use my blood. Like, that's how you can save him. But you just have to invite me in order to do that.
Of course.
She obviously refuses, is like, absolutely not. And he again threatens that Klaus wants his family back. And Alaric is still like laying on the floor, coughing up more blood. We're just continually seeing like he's gonna die. He does not look good. And so Elena rushes over to him, and Tony's saying that Alaric is gonna die, then unless Elena invites him in to save him. But then suddenly Tony is hit in the back with an arrow, and he falls to the ground. And Elena runs to the door to see what's going on, and Jeremy is standing there with the crossbow in the front yard. And Jeremy's like, he's not dead yet. And he runs inside to the kitchen. He grabs a butcher knife, and he comes back out
like
to
a meat cleaver.
Yeah, like a huge knife. And he comes back to the front porch, and he chops Tony the hybrid's head off on the front porch. Elena is shocked.
Yeah, this whole time she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, she doesn't understand what's even happening.
And she's horrified.
Obviously so horrified. And Jeremy's like, now he's dead. And then he says, we've got to get Alaric to the hospital now. So he runs inside. He drops the knife just like on the front porch. He runs inside to go to Alaric.
Blood all over his face.
Of course the blood splattered everywhere on everybody and everything. And Elena's just left standing there, obviously in actual shock.
Yeah.
Horrified.
Probably one of the most horrifying things that she has seen ever.
Easily.
Jeremy cutting someone's head off?
Obviously Jeremy has lost it.
Yeah,
Absolutely
he's
lost
so
it.
off the deep end.
This is one of the crazier things I would say that's happened in the show to this point. Like, as a viewer, I remember, like, the first time watching him do that, you're like, that is a 16-year-old child.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, like, he's literally, like, 16.
It's one he is 16. Elena says it. And it's one thing to see a vampire, a Klaus, a Damon, a Stefan do stuff like this. Even Alaric. I mean, remember the first time Alaric killed a vampire when he staked, was it Logan Fell in the parking lot? And he's like shaking afterwards. He looks horrified.
He's like, oh my God.
And he just staked like an actual vampire.
It's like a 30-something-year-old man. Yeah.
16-year-old Jeremy is cutting off the heads of hybrids and like, we gotta go.
He's like, come on. Let's get Alaric to the hospital.
Completely lost it. Which also, speaking of lost it, have you ever lived in a small town when an ambulance is called?
People are on the porch spectating like it's a fucking sport.
My dad gets out his binoculars and is like watching at the window. Like, people, like, this is news. This is top news. You're on your scanners. You're like, why are people at the Gilbert house? Like,
we recently had something not even anywhere near this crazy. Obviously, no one was chopping heads off in our town. People were calling people with police scanners, trying to get the info. People spectating. You couldn't go anywhere without someone being like, so did you hear?
Yeah, they're they're driving past like where ambulances are. Like, it is a sight to behold. No one was looking at their window at the Gilbert house when Jeremy did this.
Chopped someone's head off.
There's not a chance. I guess it's night and it's dark, but also the door was open. There was enough light definitely to be like vaguely seeing what was happening.
Yeah.
You're telling me they don't have a nosy neighbor who'd walk across the street and be like, oh, is everything okay?
Oh my God. Yeah, we literally related to this whole thing. Someone from like a few doors down drove down to our house to discuss. Like,
oh my gosh.
He's known as like our super nosy neighbor. He's like so nosy. And yeah, he drove down to our house and like was like, about the so you guys know the tea?
And it's not like the ambulance was even at your house.
No, it was so unrelated. It was so unrelated.
Yeah, different town. Like, this is so unrealistic in that an ambulance in a small town is a thing.
It's like the highlight of the week.
If you don't know, we live in New York City, and every time I hear an ambulance stop like on my block, I'm like, what's going on?
I know. I'm like, Uh-oh.
Yeah, is everything okay? There's been multiple times, like in our apartment last year, where we would go outside to walk around and see what's going on with an ambulance on our block.
Might as well.
Even if it's just an old lady with a heart attack, you're like, I want to know. I want to see.
I need to know. It's just in a small town, like, you can never overcome the need to know.
It. So I'm like, I really just don't believe that Jeremy just got away with this, but okay. We'll just pretend it's fine. No. Somehow nobody saw.
Yeah. Wild.
I don't know. The people of Mystic Falls are less nosy than us, I guess.
Oh my god. I mean, yeah, they've let all of this go this far anyway. I guess they just don't give a shit.
They're an uncurious people, I guess. I don't know. But anyway. Somehow the more normal part of this episode, the brothers fighting.
Yeah, the brothers fighting. Damon is still near, like, the old witch house. Like, he's walking back toward it.
Yeah, I was like, did he run away and just come back and it was dark out?
I know. I was like, I guess maybe then he could get inside.
Yeah,
but he doesn't go inside.
Which also, Stefan, at the old witch house at this point, Stefan's just standing, like, in the entranceway. Yeah. He's not, like, in the house particularly.
He's just waiting for Damon to come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, very weird. But Damon is, like, again, asking Stefan, like, why did you save me? Was it brotherly love or a guilty conscience? Is the switch on or is it off? And Stefan, of course, deflects, which Damon immediately responds to by saying, oh, deflection, like, that's not going to work on me. I invented that. Stefan just deflects again and is like, we're done. Can you just leave? And Damon is like, not until you tell me why you saved me. And Stefan still refuses to answer. They go back and forth for a minute. And Damon is like, okay, so then why did you steal the coffins then? Like, if you're not going to tell me that, tell me this. And Stefan tells Damon that it's because Klaus's family is the one weakness that he can use against him. And Damon is like, use against him to do what? You're not going to kill him. You know how I know. There was only one way to kill him, and you blew it to save me. Which, I don't know if that's blowing it, but okay.
Yeah.
And Stefan is like, no, there is another way. There has to be. And Damon is just like, complete switch up. He's like, okay, cool, I want in then. Like, he loves his scheme so much.
True.
He's so willing to overcome this.
But I do think it's a fair point from Stefan there that it's like, no, people don't just get to live forever. Like, there has to be a way.
Yes, I agree. And obviously, we find out Stefan is right, and he was right to think that.
Yeah.
And Damon is just like, okay, cool, I want in. And Stefan tells Damon that he doesn't need his help. And Damon is like, really? Last time I checked, you're hiding in a haunted house.
That line's so funny.
It's really funny. I'm glad someone acknowledged it in some way. He's just hanging out here.
He's just being an NPC, a little ghost.
Yeah. Stefan is just like, I'm in this alone. I don't need you. Yeah. The classic Stefan in his no humanity, whatever era. And Damon is like, to go after Klaus, you have to be cutthroat and devious. And I'm so much better at that than you. So just, let me be involved. What do you say? Like, at least let me make you saving my life, like, for a good reason. And Stefan is like, okay, fine. If you want in, it's me and you, no Elena. And Damon's just like, deal.
Yeah. Easy.
He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And Stefan tells Damon to follow him inside. And Damon is like, I can't. Like, the witches will mess with me, even though it's nighttime. But I guess there are other means to mess with him. And Stefan is like, it's okay. We all want the same thing now. So Stefan goes in, and Damon follows him in with no problems. And Stefan tells Damon down in the basement, in that room that they were in earlier, to take a look. And we see there's, like, nothing there. We don't see anything. And Damon is like, what? Klaus is allergic to dust? Like, I don't understand. And Stefan is like, look again. So Damon does look again. And then we see the 4 coffins are there. Mm-hmm. And Stefan tells Damon that the witch spirits hate Klaus as much as they do. So they're using their powers to hide these coffins. And Damon says, so even if he comes in the house, and Stefan finishes his sentence, says he won't be able to find them.
Yeah. What a good plan.
It is a pretty good plan. I was like, okay, Stefan.
Yeah, this is a great setup for what's going to happen. Like, this really only lasts like a couple episodes, but it's good.
Yeah, it is a pretty short-lived thing, but it is really good. And I do like that they gave Stefan this little devious plot.
Yeah, it's a good devious plot for a while, but the witches always have one weakness, and Klaus knows that.
Yep.
So we'll get to that as it starts to unfold. But of course, we've got to check back in on Alaric. Is he even still alive?
Yep.
He did make it to the hospital where he's now like standing up. He looks in full health. He's looking at his daylight ring. Oh my gosh, not me too.
I know.
His Gilbert ring. Of course, obviously this thing might be faulty, so he's kind of observing it. When the doctor walks into the room, and it is of course our first scene with Dr. Meredith Fell. I was so excited to see her. She's like one of my fave like season 3 like, you know, side characters.
I know. I do love her. And also this really shows like we're getting into Alaric's serial killer era.
Totally. Entering the Alaric plot now. And she asks Alaric why he isn't resting, and he claims that, you know, he can just walk it off. He believes in a walk it off sort of philosophy. But she points out, you were internal hemorrhaging, you had 3 broken ribs and a concussion. You should not even be walking right now at all. And he literally is just like, oh, you know, I've got someplace to be, so...
Yeah, gotta go.
And so she introduces herself as Dr. Meredith Fell in this scene to him. They kind of, I feel like, are vibing. It's like, you know, obviously weird because he's supposed to be like, he literally shouldn't be able to be on his feet, is what she says, and he's completely healthy. So it's like a bit of a weird vibe, but also... I feel like they're like clicking a little bit, you know? You can kind of see the like the embers of what's going to be a romance.
Definitely. Because then he rizzes her up at the end.
Yeah, because she asks him what's his secret. Is it a guardian angel or did you sell your soul to the devil? And Alaric hits her with the little bit of both. And then he just walks away. He looks like it's so, I don't even know like a word to describe it. So CW. It's so
CW. He feels like he's like trying to do a Damon like bad boy type of thing.
He thinks he's in like Supernatural or something. He's just like, a little bit of both. Guardian angel here, devil here.
Oh, Lord.
So funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do like them. I'm glad we'll get more of them as his plot continues.
Yeah, same. I do really like Meredith. She's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we see back with Elena. She's still trying to figure out this whole Jeremy situation, and we see that she's at the Salvatore boarding house now, and Elena like opens the door and Klaus is outside, and Elena tells Klaus, thank you for coming, and Klaus comes inside.
This made me laugh the way she just like, she opens the door, it's Klaus, she goes, Thank you for coming.
I know.
I burst out laughing. Like, so formal. The formalities.
She was very formal. I mean, she's definitely not happy. She's
like, oh, no. She doesn't want to be doing this.
Yeah. But Klaus cuts to the chase and is like, what's the news on Stefan? And Elena tells Klaus that she couldn't find him, but she has something else for him. We already know where this is going. They mentioned it earlier.
Oh, yeah.
We see down in the cellar, Elena opens the door to the cellar that they're always in the cell.
I'm already laughing.
Still laying on the ground.
Yeah, it's revealed. Klaus is standing there and they reveal Rebecca face down in the dirt. Like, the disrespect is crazy.
It's still daggered. I mean, obviously they daggered her in the back, so it's like...
They couldn't flip it around and switch it. It takes 2 seconds.
They could switch it. She wouldn't come back.
Yeah. And Klaus is just like... Poor thing.
I know.
I can't leave her alone for a second. This is what happens. The way he's like not even surprised. He's just like, oh yeah, this is where I thought I'd find her, just face down in a pile of dirt in a basement. Like, it's so.
Literally, his reaction is just my poor sister.
Why is this so funny?
It's not. Well, it's also made more funny by a later scene that we'll see.
The tears. Rachel is crying because we laughed too hard at that. So Rebecca, face down in the dirt. Klaus is like, oh, my poor sister. Like, this is why I can't leave her alone for more than 1 second. I turn my back and this is what happens. And Elena's like, a deal is a deal. And Klaus agrees. Rebecca for Jeremy. It is a fair trade. And Jeremy is officially spared now because Elena has handed over Rebecca to Klaus.
Yeah, that was pretty smart of Elena. That was a very, like...
It was smart.
Very equal. Like
it was smart.
For a sibling.
Oh, totally. But this is obviously why Stefan won't allow Elena into their plans. Because she just kind of does things like this to try to, like, get an easy win.
Yeah.
But Elena does warn Klaus that, like, she was the one that daggered Rebecca. Yes. And as soon as Klaus wakes her up, like, she's going to come after Elena. And Klaus is like, I can control Rebecca. Yeah, like, it'll be fine. But I need you, Elena, to find Stefan. And Elena keeps playing her little lying game. Like, I don't even know where he is. I couldn't find him. And so Klaus, like, bends down and he pulls the dagger out of Rebecca right there. And he calls out Elena for lying. He's like, I know obviously. You're lying, but...
Yeah.
And he starts threatening her. He's like, you have no shortage of loved ones. Bonnie, Caroline, Damon. A very distinct Damon there.
Little dig.
Yeah, this is like I was saying before. He watches, he observes, he knows all. Mm-hmm. This was a very intentional of like, Bonnie, Caroline, Damon. I know that's the next one that's going to hurt you the most. Which I think is really the reason why, like when he was saying to Damon about not killing him, it's not because Damon's like really the best way to get the coffins back. It's because he has to wait for the opportune moment to kill Damon in order to affect Elena. And Elena's like, Stefan doesn't even care about me anymore because of you, Klaus. So like he is your problem now. And Elena threatens Klaus that like Rebecca, by the way, also wants you dead because she knows that you killed your mother. And he is obviously affected by this. We start hearing that like originals emotional theme music in the background that I always talk about that I love. And he's obviously kind of like letting that process. And Elena's just like, you can let yourself out. And she just walks away and leaves Klaus down there with Rebecca. What a scene.
Yeah. I was going to say, I love Klaus and Elena scenes. They're so good.
I do too. They have, and not even just Elena, but Catherine. I think Nina and Joseph have really good chemistry together.
Definitely.
They're a really great acting like balance that I just really, I think always works no matter what like the dynamic of the scene is. They pair very well together.
Definitely. Yeah. I also especially love Elena and Klaus. She's, like we said, she runs up on everyone.
That's true. And she has zero power. Whereas Catherine is very scared of him. She will not challenge Klaus at all.
Yeah, very interesting.
You'd think it'd be the opposite, but it's really not. Elena will run up on anybody, anytime, any day.
She's like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, checking back in with Alaric, we see Jeremy and Alaric are walking outside of the hospital, leaving. Alaric is obviously like, whatever, I just gotta go, whatever. But we see, like, Jeremy says, the ring brought you back to life, but it didn't heal you. Does that mean it's broken? And Alaric says, I don't know, this has never happened before. And he does say the reason he's walking out is because he has Damon's blood to thank for the fact that he's still walking.
Yeah.
And Jeremy tells him that Damon did say, yeah, you owe me a drink now that he gave him his blood. And Alaric says he'd rather have head trauma.
I thought that was so funny. He's like, funny, I'd rather have head trauma than owe Damon a drink.
With Damon, but okay.
Yeah, which they do every single day anyway.
I know. Well, I was going to save this till the end of the scene, but I'll just get into it. I feel like this is what I was referencing earlier. A very subtle way they're building out Alaric's character is he already hates Damon so much.
That's true.
And I feel
since he killed him.
Yeah, since he killed him. And I feel like it is a big part of Alaric's like hatred of vampires that's really been starting. Like this subtle, I don't even want to have a drink with him.
That's true.
Because Damon's killed him before. Alaric's died basically countless times at this point. Like,
and it feels like he's already forgiven him for the killing him thing. Like they kind of made good during like the Mason plot line of the ghost. So it's interesting that he's still like kind of refusing to be friends with him. Yeah, he's like, I don't even want to
have a drink with him.
Yeah.
And he was so like, I don't know, anti like really hanging out with him at the grill earlier.
That's interesting. I think that's true.
Yeah.
They're amping it up for sure.
I think this is building to like his hatred of vampires.
Yeah.
But anyway, he says he'd rather have head trauma, and he asks Jeremy, like Alaric stops in the parking lot and he's like, are you okay, Jeremy? And Jeremy is like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? I just shot a hybrid in the back and chopped his head off with a meat cleaver. Typical Sunday, like whatever.
Yeah.
And he's not even really saying it with that much sarcasm. Like a little, of course.
A little. But mostly just kind of like, like typical Sunday.
Yeah, he's just like, yep.
Like this
crazy
is our life
around here, isn't it?
That's really the tone he's giving this. I was like, is this because he's the one person that canonically plays video games?
I guess, yeah, maybe.
He's just desensitized.
Just like so desensitized, I guess. I don't know. But Alaric tells Jeremy, like, you can talk about this stuff with me, right? And Jeremy is like, what could you tell me that I don't already know? Like, this is the way things are, but you just have to like deal with it, basically. And he's kind of right. Like, what wisdom does Alaric have? Like,
yeah, but it's such like an unfortunate to hear of like, this is the way things are. It sucks, but I've just got to get used to it, is what he says, which I think is like,
I think
as Alaric, that's such a crushing thing to hear, as the parental figure of this 16-year-old kid being like, it sucks that this is our life, but I have to get used to it. Yeah. Like, that's such as a parent, a guardian, that's the most disappointing thing of like,
I know.
you don't have to deal with it, Jeremy. That doesn't have to be your life.
I know. I was thinking, I feel like that is a big wake-up call for Alaric, at least.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he, like, shares this with Elena.
Yeah. This is definitely why in Legacies, Alaric requires all of his students to do mandatory therapy.
Yes.
I was like, Jeremy was the origin story for that plot line.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, because Jeremy needs it right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of somebody else who needs it, actually, at the Gilbert house, Elena is in the kitchen washing blood out of, like, a rag that is covered, obviously, and she has a bucket. And Damon walks in, and he says that Tony the Headless Hybrid is down at the bottom of Stephen's quarry, which always got a quip, even when you're disposing of dead bodies.
Yeah. He doesn't even say it like a quip. He's just like, yep.
Yep. He's at the bottom of the
quarry.
Yep. And he also mentions that he went and healed Alaric at the hospital, that he's going to be fine, and he asks Elena how she is. And she says that she got most of the blood off the porch, ignoring the real question there. Clearly she's not fine.
Yeah.
She is like obsessively scrubbing the blood off of her hands out of the cloth. She looks miserable. Mm-hmm. And Damon tells her to look at him, and he kind of like pulls her away from the sink, and he tells her it's going to be okay. And Elena says, I have to tell you something. I made a deal with Klaus. I gave him Rebecca. And it is obviously not what Damon wanted to hear. He's not happy about that. But Elena says, like, she thinks that Klaus won't let Rebecca kill her, like, that, you know, he'll take care of it, and that Klaus needs Elena. But Damon questions her. He's obviously like, suddenly you trust Klaus? Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, obviously no.
Yeah.
But, like, she did not feel she had another choice. She obviously doesn't trust Stefan either. Mm-hmm. Like, he isn't going to give up one of those coffins, let's be real. And Damon's like, my brother. He's sort of running his own show right now. And Elena's like, well, my brother just chopped somebody's head off, so...
Yeah, and she had to watch.
Yeah, they're both doing pretty poorly in the sibling department right now. Mm-hmm. And Elena is distracting herself, keeping herself busy again with the blood. She, like, turns back to the sink, and it feels like she's going to start crying, but she's trying not to cry as she's, like, talking about Jeremy. This is where she says that Jeremy is 16 years old. And the fact that he's having to live like this and, like, deal with these things, like, clearly she's getting very worked up about this whole situation. And Damon, like, is trying to distract her, and he reaches over and turns off the water. And he cups her cheeks, holding her like he always does. And he tells her that they will fix this. He says, we will, okay? And I was like, we people. It all comes back to we people. They're so we people.
Tyler was so onto something. He didn't even know.
Yeah, we roasted him back in season 1 for we people. Now, but we people, we get it now.
People. I do get it.
We people.
Anyway. So this is the scene that I was also thinking out, especially making me laugh.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Seeing Klaus in his new, like, you know, under renovation mansion. And we see Rebecca lying on, like, a work table. She's just, like, laying out, which I guess he doesn't have anywhere to put her, but she's just laying there. And again, it's very funny to me.
It's so funny. The way she's just laid out in the middle of this construction site.
He doesn't have anything else he could set her on.
He has no furniture yet.
I guess not. And her skin is still, like, gray, even though the dagger is out. And Klaus is talking to Rebecca, even though she's obviously still desiccated, telling her that they're home. It only took 1,000 years. And he goes on to say, and to think, I was counting on you being here with me. But that's all ruined now, isn't it? Of course, ruined by them telling Rebecca that Klaus killed their mother.
Yeah, ruined.
Ruined, yeah. And we see one of her, like, fingers start to wiggle and turn less gray. Yeah. And he says, I'm so sorry. And then he strokes her cheek and he says, sister, we'll meet again one day. And daggers her again. One day.
Yeah. He's so crazy. He also acts so hurt when he does it.
Know.
It's like he's daggering himself. He's like, this isn't my choice. Like, he's literally doing this just to avoid his own problems that he has caused.
Yes.
Which is, I love him. He's so funny to me. But
so
it's also
funny.
like, Klaus, you're such a fraud.
Yeah. Oh my
so
God.
Funny.
But anyway.
We'll move on from there. We'll see Rebecca one day.
Yes.
Maybe in a few episodes.
Yes.
But of course, at the Gilbert house, Alaric and Elena, man, this scene, Alaric and Elena go up to Jeremy's room, and the door is open. Elena knocks on the frame, and she asks Jeremy if they can talk. And he's all, uh-oh, what'd I do now? And Elena says that she's been thinking about what Jeremy had said earlier about just packing up and leaving town and going. And he tries to brush it off. He's like, oh, I didn't mean any of that. And she says that he was right, though, when he said that. And she says, you shouldn't have to give up a normal life just because of me. And Jeremy's like, whoa, what's going on? It's like Alaric's standing right there, and then we see Damon is starting to like walk into the room. And he says, your sister thinks we should have another one of our talks. This is immediately reminiscent for all of us who watched season 1, episode 7, when Vicky died. Some things are going down pretty similarly here. And Damon comes in and he sits on the bed next to Jeremy and he starts to compel him. And he tells him, he says, you're going out of town for a while, a long while. And he tells him you're going to stay with family friends in Denver. You're going to go to a new school. You're going to meet girls. Living girls.
Just had to get a little dig in.
A little dig. Living girls, Jeremy. No more ghost girlfriends. Yep. He says you're going to drink beers. You're going to take an art class. You're going to do whatever it is that you want to do. And then Alaric tells him to add in, tell him he's going to leave Mystic Falls behind and he's never going to think twice about it. And Damon looks at Elena for approval and she nods in agreement. So then Damon adds that in as well. And then at the end he says, you're going to have a better life, Jeremy. And Elena's like standing on the side crying. This is emotional for everyone. I think even Damon, like everyone in the room is like really feeling this. Yeah. But this is like wild, this whole scenario. Obviously, like after the Vicky situation, I'm shocked that they decided to do this again. The writers, Elena as a character, like everyone involved, I'm like really surprised that this is like a move they decided to do again.
I know. I really don't know how I feel about this because I kind of feel like they're in the, I don't know. I feel like Elena is so justified. Like it is at least that much harder to get at Jeremy. Yeah. But we see it doesn't really help them from getting at him. We'll see that in a few episodes. But
I don't know. I do ultimately really agree with Elena and Alaric in this situation. Like, Jeremy is 16.
Yes. Obviously, he just chopped someone's head off.
He just chopped somebody's head off. Obviously, it's so morally wrong to take away his, like, free will and his decisions and everything. But also being 16, like, you don't really have that much, like,
it's true.
Free will over your life anyway. And Jeremy's such, like, a not normal teenager that to just, like, send him away the normal way isn't going to work. Like, he's not going to go.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to do this. Yeah. So I do support them in this. I think I would make the same decision. But obviously it's hard. Obviously it's morally wrong. Obviously, like, they have to live with that. Yeah. But it is for, like, the larger purpose of, like, Jeremy cannot, one, physically live if they don't do this. Two, he cannot mentally live a healthy life if they don't send him away. So we'll continue to talk about this because Bonnie has big beef with this, as we'll see in upcoming episodes. But I don't know. I personally do support Elena and Alaric in it.
Yeah, I think I support this one more too because it's less of like an emotional meddling. Like they're just making him move. They're not saying like, I guess they do say like forget about Mystic Falls, but
that's my one problem is I think Alaric tacking that bit on was like, okay, that's a little bit more emotional.
That's a little bit extra, but I'm hoping it's in more of like a metaphorical sense of like forget the problems, like forget about how bad it was. But I mean erasing like the memory of Vicky and all of that stuff I feel like was so much worse.
Well, and also like Alaric is somebody who has had his like feelings compelled away by Isabel. It's interesting that he supports this because it did seem to work very well for Alaric, so that might also be why he's like, yeah, let's do it.
True.
I don't know. I think it's really interesting that they all decided to do this again, but I do personally agree with them that it was what Jeremy needed.
I know. Even just the break, like the short time that he's away, I feel like is probably a good reset.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I do see, as we'll get into, why Bonnie doesn't agree with it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later, but
we'll get into that.
He's 16. Yeah. That's the thing I'm just going to keep coming back to. He's 16 and he just chopped somebody's head off.
Yeah. I mean, parents make children move all the time. It's kind of like...
Yeah, and they don't want to.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you're 16. You're just stuck based on what your parents want to do. So
I will say the one thing I did love is Damon adding like himself, like you're gonna have a better life, Jeremy.
Yeah, I know.
I thought that was cute.
Again, it's like they all feel really moved by this. It's like Alaric, Damon, and Elena are really sort of these like, you know, parental guardian figures for Jeremy at this point.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to just have them all doing this together like this.
Yeah. But, such an acknowledgement of the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. We'll come back to that, actually. But first, a segue to the old witch house where Stefan and Bonnie enter the room where the coffins are. And she walks up to one of them saying that is the specific one that she saw in her dream that had Klaus in it. Like, that's the important one. And she tries to open it, but it won't open. And Stefan says not to bother, that he tried everything, a blowtorch, an axe, a crowbar. Can't even scratch the finish. I was like, of course Stefan tried a blowtorch first. Stefan loves a blowtorch. If there's one in the vicinity, Stefan gets his hands on it.
He's using it.
Yeah, for real. And so Bonnie says that it's probably closed with a spell. Duh.
Yeah,
obviously. If it didn't work for the blowtorch, Stefan, there's clearly a spell on it. And so Stefan says that probably means that whatever is inside that coffin should stay inside that coffin. True. But Bonnie says the witches led her there for a reason, that whatever is in that coffin is the answer for making Klaus suffer. It is the thing that will help with this whole situation. So, of course, Bonnie's new mission is get that coffin open.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to leave that plot for now. That's going to be a mission for, is it just the next episode or next two that they try to get this coffin open? So
I think the next two.
Yeah, I think so.
But then that's it for that little plot. And then we have to pick up with Elena and Damon and the after effects of that very moving scene with Jeremy. And we see Elena's just walking out of the house onto the front porch. Obviously a lot is going on. And Damon follows her out. And Elena tells him that she feels like a horrible person. And Damon is like, you just saved his life, like trying to, comfort her and make her not feel so horrible. And he adds, like, Jeremy getting killed would be so much worse than, just compelling him to move away. And Elena says she can't stop thinking about what happened last time, like we just said. And Damon is like, he got over it. Again, he didn't die, and that's what's most important.
Yeah.
And he's lucky to have you as his sister.
Yeah, it turns very sweet in that moment.
Yeah. And at this point, again, it's like getting kind of real, especially for Delena. Elena thanks Damon, and he's like, no problem, whatever. Yeah. And Elena says, not just for this, but for everything. I don't know what I would do if you weren't here. And Damon pauses for a beat and says, you should know this, Elena. Stefan did not screw us over. Or even if he did screw us over, he had a good reason. And Elena is like, what are you talking about? And Damon tells her that Stefan ruined the plan to kill Klaus to save Damon's life. And then he only stole these coffins to get even with Klaus for obviously everything he's done to everyone. And Elena, this is like mind-blowing, like we said.
Yeah, clearly mind-shifting about everything going on.
Truly, like, her perception of everything is just completely shifted. She's like, wait, if he did it to protect you, then, like, what does that mean? And why would he do that? She's just, like, trying to think through it, saying, what does it mean? And Damon is like, it means I'm an idiot because I thought for 1 second I wouldn't have to feel guilty anymore. We all know where this is going, but Elena is like, guilty about what?
Yeah, Elena doesn't know where it's going for some
Elena
reason.
Has no clue. And Damon says, for wanting what I want. And then she, of course, gets it, and she starts by saying, Damon. And he's like, I know, I get it. Brother's girl, all that, whatever. And he starts to leave. He's going to let it be. And he stops halfway down the porch steps. And he's like, no, you know what? If I'm going to feel guilty about something, I'm going to feel guilty about this. He goes back to Elena and kisses her for like a minute.
Yeah.
They're both kissing back. They're both engaged in this.
Their first real kiss.
Yeah. Yes. And where no one's about to die, like nothing like that.
Yeah. And they're both participating.
Yes. And then he just says goodnight and walks away.
Oh, and she's shell-shocked.
She's
just as shell-shocked as when Jeremy beheaded the hybrid. She's like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah, what an emotional roller coaster she's
that porch,
today.
on that porch specifically.
Yeah, that porch.
It's been through it. Yeah, she's just standing there, like, obviously, like, talk about, like, world-shifting views, you know, of finding out that Stefan did all of this to save his brother and then kissing Damon and realizing, like, whoa, wait a second, that meant something to me. That was, like, passionate. That was, like... This is a scene, obviously, that's, like, setting Delena on a path that they were already on, but this is the first real kiss. Like, this is everything.
It is the first real kiss,
to what they are. I'll talk about it in Best Song.
I know,
I have more to say. I have more to say, but I'll bring it up later.
We'll get there.
We might as well start our outro, and, of course, we always do that by starting out with our call-in, our voicemail host. So let's hear from them.
Hey, this is producer Shay. So I'm calling in for episode 10, but specifically about the scene where Alaric is waking up after dying and the EMTs are in the house trying to bring him to the hospital. And Tony the Hider shows up and he compels the two EMTs and is like, hey, I'll take it from here. We'll see you at the hospital. And so after the EMTs leave, and I'm just picturing, like, the two EMTs going back to the hospital, and the doctors and nurses are probably like, oh, so where's the guy that got hit by a car? And then they're probably just like, oh, someone else showed up and said they'll take it. Like, it's fine. I'm just picturing the doctors being, like, shocked. Like, they probably got fired after that. And so I just love imagining scenarios where people who get compelled go back and they talk to people who weren't compelled, and the stories just are not lining up. And I just feel like this is one of those crazy situations, and it just makes me laugh when I think about the two EMTs just leaving.
Thank you to our voicemail host. We always appreciate your messages. Call us in if you haven't before for next week's episode, Caroline's 18th birthday.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
But to wrap up this week, before we spiral into next week.
Yeah, pause on that. This week, for deaths, for our in memoriam section, we only had 2. We had Alaric, who was killed by Tony when he drove the car at Jeremy. Alaric saved him.
Yeah.
Alaric was brought back by his ring, of course. And I think this makes his 4th death.
Yeah, I think it went Damon, Stevie, Damon, Tony.
I think that's right.
I think that's where we're at.
I think that's right. Yeah. You can correct if need be, but I think that's right. And then, of course, we talked about this, like, pretty much the whole episode, it felt like.
Yeah.
Jeremy decapitates Tony, killing him.
So crazy.
Yeah.
I think that was Jeremy's first kill, and it was definitely, like, one of the more crazy ones that we've seen on this show.
I think so,
especially from a non-vampire. It's one thing for the vampires who rip out hearts, but it's another for, like, a human boy.
Yeah, a 16-year-old boy to just be chopping heads off.
Yeah, really crazy.
Yeah. Which is a good segue.
Yeah, to crazy. Our out-of-pocket / things we would have done differently. I definitely had several candidates this episode.
Yeah.
Chief among them, of course, was Jeremy.
Yes, that was the only thing I had because I'm still in shock.
Yeah. I did pair Jeremy and Tyler together, mostly just for acting like everything was fine and acting like nothing mattered. And, like,
I know.
I just thought it was crazy. I was like, this is why they made Jeremy leave. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. So that was one of my big contenders. My other one was Stefan just hanging out at the witch house, like, just in case. And also because he has clearly nothing else to do. I was like, that's a little out of pocket of him. And then
that's
also,
a good one.
maybe the biggest offense in the out of pocket category is Klaus daggering Rebecca, but waiting until she starts waking up just a little bit and then daggering her. I was like, that's out of pocket. That's unnecessary, Klaus.
I did think that too. I was imagining, I was like, again, maybe we could do like a whole special on this because I feel like maybe not. It's not really referenced that often. And I think it's in originals, but they talk about like what it's like to be desiccated.
Yeah,
and,
they
like,
do.
Imagine Rebecca just coming back for like, it's like you're coming awake for a
you
second
can hear
and then you're just immediately put back.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
She's going to be.
He was a little out of pocket for that. A lot of really good contenders. I feel like Jeremy's head chopping is too serious.
Yeah, it is a little serious. That's kind of why I went with Tyler and Jeremy, just generally acting like nothing mattered and it's all fine. I don't know. I think they're all good contenders.
I think so too. I kind of like the Klaus one. I feel like that's
it feels
pretty cool.
Truly out of pocket.
Yeah,
it's unnecessary.
It's so unnecessary. Then again, Rebecca being like face down in the dirt is.
Yeah, that was out of pocket.
It's also out of pocket. That wasn't this episode. So
that wasn't this episode. I think we'll go Klaus with daggering Rebecca.
Klaus.
I think
really
that was
like
the
that.
truest out of pocket of those three.
Yeah.
Next is our quotes.
Yeah, I had a lot of different quotes that I really liked. I didn't even write them all down because I was like, there's just too many. Basically, everything Klaus said.
Yeah.
I'll start with at least one. It's like one that I really liked is when Elena tells him it's a Klaus and Stefan problem, the missing coffins. And Klaus just says, well, this is me broadening the scope, sweetheart.
That's a good one.
I just really liked it.
A good villainous one.
Yeah.
I went with a lot of funny Damon ones. I
Okay.
have 4 Damon quotes and 1 Stefan. My first Damon one was, come on, Rick, I can't drink all by myself. I mean, I can, but then someone's getting naked. That's just
such a weird thing for him to say to Alaric.
Yeah, well, and then I just stayed making eyes at him. I was like, that is seared in my brain. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was all pretty wild.
But I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. The other one that really comes to mind, I would be shocked if this isn't your Stefan one. I love when Stefan is like, well, Bonnie sure sucks at keeping a secret.
That was it. Yeah.
Like,
that one might win it all for me. It's so funny.
It really could.
Well, Bonnie sucks at keeping secrets.
Yeah.
It's the delivery, too.
It is
so good. It's
yeah,
so
he's
good.
so, like, serious but kind of sarcastic in a way. I don't know. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so funny. So many funny ones.
Yeah.
Damon, too, with such a buzzkill, my baby bro. That one made me laugh really hard.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I'm trying to think of other ones. I should have like written them down. I don't remember them all, but there were so many Klaus things that I just loved.
I know. Well, the other one that I did mention in the episode was when Damon walks into the house after Alaric's died, and he's like, "How is he?" And Elena's like, "He's dead."
He's dead.
It's just not the end of the quote, really, but it just feels like the quote, so it makes me laugh.
It's pretty good.
But I do think my number one favorite quote is from Damon. This was the one before we even watched it that I knew was coming and I thought would probably be my favorite was, if I'm going to feel guilty about something, I'm going to feel guilty about this.
That's so true. That is so iconic.
For as much as I love all the funny ones, and there's a lot of really funny ones in this episode, I was like, that is the memorable one.
No, that's true. I think it has to be that.
Yeah, if I'm going to feel guilty about something, I'm going to feel guilty about this. Like,
it is so memorable.
Saying that right before you kiss someone, like, for the first time, like a real kiss, is iconic.
It is really iconic. Okay, it's definitely that one.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, so Damon best quote, and for me that's a carry through of best song because I only had one winner, no honorable mentions, no nominees, because to me the winner was just so plain that I was like, I don't even want to talk about anybody else.
Yeah, that's fair. I did have an honorable mention. I did really like the song that plays while Elena is jogging. I did mention briefly. It's a very like angsty alternative rock song. Yeah. It's Shook Down by Yuck.
Oh yeah, I liked that one.
Yeah, I was like, it just felt like it fit the vibe really well. It felt very fall, nostalgic-y, kind of like 2010s.
Yeah, I liked that one too.
Yeah, but then of course,
the obvious winner. That was what was distracting me because the obvious winner is of course "Holding On and Letting Go" by Ross Copperman. How do we think it's pronounced? Somebody tell us in the comments.
Yeah,
but "Holding On and Letting Go" is one of the most iconic Delena songs to me personally. Like,
yeah, I know.
I distinctly remember when this episode aired, and I had the song on repeat until that Florence and the Machine song that we will get to someday.
So true.
But yeah, I mean, that's Damon and Elena's first real kiss.
Yeah.
And also, this artist is so important to Delena because they also use his song "Hunger" when they have their last dance and their like last, little episode. I didn't realize
it was the same artist.
Yeah. So it feels like, and that's like, of course, a beautiful tie back to this first kiss. So it's just such an obvious winner. It's like whenever they use an artist again, we of course always love that. And whenever you use a song that's this important to like a relationship, to where you're going to use it in like one of their last moments together. Easy winner. That's just so, perfect.
Yeah, agreed. I know. I was waiting for Holding On and Letting Go the whole episode.
I know.
I was thinking about it the whole time. I was like, we'll get there.
It was definitely one I had like bookmarked, as we started the season, where I'm like, there's always like a few songs that before you've even started the season, you're like waiting to get to.
Yes. And we talked about this for like an hour. We should have done a special about it.
We should have, yeah.
The songs before the season.
Yeah. And this was one that I was waiting for. This was one on like the long list of songs that I can't wait for. And I'm glad we're finally here because I know.
It's so good. So yeah, obvious winner.
Obvious winner. So we'll be adding Holding On and Letting Go to our Song of the Episode playlist where we have all of the winners of Best Song from every episode so far up to Season 3, Episode 10. And we'll also be adding it to our Season 3 winners and honorable mentions playlist. So you can go check out all of the songs from Season 3 so far. Then also there you can find our TikTok and our Instagram where we're always posting clips from the podcast, clips from the show, funny memes, polls that you can interact with, just all sorts of stuff to just get involved in TVDU.
Yeah, and you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere. And you can watch the video version on YouTube if you want to see. Sarah's outfit is like literally exactly what Elena is wearing a jog, or our facial expressions, me crying, laughing.
Yeah, the crying, laughing was probably better for the video people today.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been thinking about the outfit. I love it. It looks so good. But anyway, this is the outro. I should be quick. Join us next week, next Thursday, for Season 3, Episode 11.
Our town.
Yeah. Our town.
Caroline's 18th birthday. Stefan and Elena in the bridge. That's all we'll say on that iconic episode.
Oh, I can't wait.
So thanks for watching and or listening to this one. We'll see you next week. Bye.